Good morning and welcome to Smart Men's Business. I'm Andrew Barija here, and of course it's yet another business day as we're here to drive you. That is all the way with quite very interesting information when it comes to business, which is quite very essential when it comes to decision making. But of course, this morning I'm with Masi Katsime as we are going to be driving this business. Masi, how are you doing today?
Well, good morning, Andrew. Today is a beautiful morning, and it's a Wednesday. We're still in the week. The week is halfway. You're halfway in, so definitely brace yourselves and prepare for the last 2 days of the week. And of course, we are in the month of August, the 8th month of the year. Here to remind you every day of the days, of the dates. Whatever, of course, this is Smart Men's Business, where we get to give you what is happening in terms of business. We want to know what is currently happening in the world of business. We are here to give you information about it. And of course, my name is Masi Katsime, and I'm going to be with Andrew, checking you all the way to 9:55 a.m. So stick around, do stay, increase your volume in case it wasn't audible enough, because we got you today.
All right. That's quite very amazing. Just like Masi has said, of course, get ready for this very interesting information. But of course, before we proceed into this very discussion, I would still love to remind you that all the discussions that are going to be coming up on the show today are proudly powered by Reveiw. That is a platform from Alltex to just make your trading experience much more easy and friendly. Now, the markets are back today. Step 92 hash is simply the USSD code for you to be a part of this. Here, you will be available with options where you will be in position to actually buy government bonds and securities for a fee of just 15,000 Ugandan shillings. Now, as I speak, the markets are going to be opening at exactly 8:15 a.m. and they'll run all the way to 3:15 p.m. West African time. This is effective. That is Monday up to Friday, apart from the weekends of the public holidays when this markets cannot be accessed. But of course, despite the fact you have the rest of the days to make money, something which I believe is very influential when it comes to your financial development. And also remember, on top of star 292 hash, you have to register with your national identification number for you to proceed efficiently. That's why Reveiw says my money, my future, and Alltex East Africa simply says, well, do something for yourself. It is 2023. Well, heading into our discussion, of course, not only just one discussion, quite lots of discussion. Now, morning call, there is something to do with the Africa Coffee Summit, which is getting underway. That is in Kampala City. And of course, seeing the different nations coming in together to explore, the coffee value chain. But of course, in most cases, the big impact is largely going to be centered on increasing value that is for the coffee. Value addition. The president talk about this all the time, and I will see
him coming in,
coffee. Yes, bringing the different stakeholders, and they are already on to have these discussions further. Now, the second G25 Africa Coffee Summit has kicked off at Speak Resort Munyunyu in Kampala. And the 3-day conference is expected to be opened by President Yoweri Museveni under the theme transforming, that is, the African coffee sector through value addition. Now, Agriculture Minister Frank Tumweba has said a declaration is expected to be signed at the end of the summit that is aiming at marshalling support of the African Union in giving coffee the prominence it deserves as a strategic crop. Now, of course, the conference explores how African coffee producing countries can harness the opportunities in value addition. That is an increase Africa's contribution. That is to the global coffee trade, whose estimated value is about $466 billion US. Now, of course, this is what we're talking about in a place of having one voice. As Africa, in that way, we shall be in position to actually have that crop that can stand out there. $466 billion. I believe Africa can have a share of about 30 to 50% of this market. I mean, taking a look at the global perspective, that is if, we just don't discuss about these matters and leave them there at the summit, but we go as far as, implementing, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so that is quite a very, very, very key aspect in there. And now, of course, according to the Uganda Coffee Development Authority, they say that coffee is the lifeblood of the economies in Africa, majority. And of course, it is critical that they harness this resource by adding value to coffee to earn more, create employment, and develop the economies at the same time. That is, say, the Uganda Coffee Development Authority. That is in terms of that. Now, the summit is being attended by heads of state, senior government ministers, heads of coffee authorities, coffee exporters, roasters, associations, farmers and processors, Now, of course, Marcy, I still believe that we're going to see the aspect of the private sector, and government having that linkage gap in terms of support. It could be in terms of the capital that is needed. Because when you talk about value addition, I believe there is infrastructure that is needed to actually make that possible. So the heads of coffee agencies in the different nations, for example, in Uganda we have the Coffee Development Authority. Other countries have different bodies that actually govern, oversee coffee in that given country. And I believe now they carry quite a great responsibility when it comes to bridging, including the private players, because they have been facing quite lots of challenges, when it comes to value addition. Now, of course, these include Ethiopia president, that is Saleh Wak Zwere, and the president of Ethiopia, Dr. Philip Isara. These are some of the stakeholders who are weighing here, presidents, heads of coffee associations in the different countries, and of course we saw Dr. Philip Isdo, that is Mpango, that is the Vice President of Tanzania, and Musalia Mudavadi, that is the Prime Cabinet Secretary of Kenya. And now, of course, the African leaders arrived. That was Monday. And African leaders arrived in the country. That is to attend this meeting. And one of them was President Saleh Zawadi of Ethiopia, who was welcomed at the international airport. That is by the Minister of Presidency, Mile Babalanda. I think we really saw that aspect in the papers being spread all over. But of course, like we always say on Smart Means Business, it's very important once such initiatives are actually put out there to see how best they can really be followed up, to feel the impact of them. That is what we call the follow-up process. Okay, after this, how many investors have we attracted in the country that are doing coffee? We need to understand that. To what extent did the G Summit actually contribute to the coffee development in the different countries? Because it will be very absurd that Ethiopia goes back and implements these very points that are being discussed, and it works out for them, and then some of the nations could be left behind. And Uganda being the hosting nation, it's really something that we ought to carry this responsibility, to make sure that we really implement. And now this is an urge to all the leaders, the different, most especially when it comes to the Uganda Coffee Development Authority. It carries quite a very great responsibility when it comes to, following up and ensuring, speaking to the policy makers, because at least they are that agency that speaks to for the private sector when it comes to trying to influence the government when implementing coffee policies. This could be in terms of incentives, to the coffee farmers, taxes that are involved. For example, some of the taxes when it comes to importation of materials that are needed into this sector of coffee. All those aspects should be. So you can see that there ought to be a coordination of the Uganda Coffee Development Authority with the different government agencies when it comes to different policies. That is to ensure that this actually gets underway quite very, very efficient. So it's going to be a 3-day summit, definitely. And I believe by the time it's really out of there.
It ends tomorrow?
Yes, tomorrow. We shall have come to, lots of conclusions are going to come on board. And I also anticipate the different support from the different nations towards each other, and most especially Uganda, corporations from, like the Uganda Coffee Development Authority, having an MOU with the Coffee Authority in Ethiopia. To make sure that this is actually made quite very efficient. Yes, support at the end of the day to harness is quite very key and important.
Actually there was a report from UDC and UCD, Uganda Coffee Development Authority, and they said the coffee exports earned the country $66 million. So
$66 million.
Yeah. So imagine if we at all added value, like the president usually says, adding value to this coffee. How much more would we earn as a country?
Much more than that. Much more than that. So now this summit is up. So we are here to share ideas. Okay, we learn from each other.
farmers, different farmers from different countries, different associations, authorities coming together and sharing knowledge on how maybe they have been doing their things in terms of coffee, adding value in their coffee, or us telling them a tip or two on how this could help us boost our different economies. Maybe it could be soon enough, it could be the crop that Africa is known for. If we combine, join and have efforts, so definitely, I think that is why we are coming up with these summits, so that we could have a united front on what products or what material we could have as one, and maybe just like Russia is known for this and this, maybe Africa could be known for a certain product, and knowing that if I go to Africa, definitely it's a coffee zone, that is where I go and get my coffee from. Perfect. So presidents coming together, I think they really see value in this cash crop, coffee. Coffee it's consumed all over the world, so definitely, why not? If we have the opportunity to grow it here in Africa, why not embrace it and add value so that we could actually compete with these markets that are outside? Maybe, probably, we could actually be on top of the game.
Very true. And actually, looking at the fact that we see majority of the leaders that came out in here, Ethiopia, looking at Tanzania, Kenya, and all that, this will also give the East African region, the Horn of Africa. Yes. It's all still into the Eastern region. You see, when we talk about integration, different regions need to have something. Okay, of course, we cannot have just one product as Africa, but at least on the regional perspective, at least each region can have something it can put out there.
Yes.
So Ethiopia, almost close to the East African region, Tanzania, Kenya, Uganda. If we say that we are fronting coffee, then West Africa says they also look at what they can front. They're very, like Ghana used to be one of the leading countries of cocoa. Of course, with Western countries, West African countries actually have different capabilities. Nigeria, oil, Ghana, cocoa, different. But of course, they can also have something that unites them.
Yes,
but which is not coffee. The Northern Africa. Then we see the southern part of Africa, because that one is so rich of minerals in there. So you can see how that fronting regional, each having
integration,
what we call competitive advantage. Each region has an advantage when it comes to what is that product it can front out there to the global market. Actually, global market, that would be very key and a catalyst for that continental free trade area. But of course, we expect more of this to happen in also other regions across Africa, because definitely we need to stretch our thinking capacities, not just rely on domestic markets, because you just have no idea what we can command when we come as a voice together and we have something that we're fronting out there. So that is key. So the ECOWAS, you can also have something in relation to that, a summit in relation to taking a look at what is that thing we are fronting out there as a product, as nations in this block that we carry an advantage over when it comes to production, and all that. And with such, the integration will be quite a very key and efficient. Of course, it's the biggest picture, and and by the way, most of the discussions we shall always be relating them, driving them to the African integration, because it's actually the biggest agenda in here, and it's what we're all waiting for. I can't imagine to live in a united Africa. I can't wait to live in a time of united East Africa, really. Not in two words, but experiencing what really an integration is. We talk about it, but have we had an experience of that? Well, I believe we shall live to see that. That is it for our morning call, and now let's switch our eyes and take a look at what's happening into the press. We've got the Daily Monitor and the Revision, but of course, to kickstart off here, I can see something here on the Daily Monitor. Best here says, here's my proof of dirty cash. You'll find out further of that when you get yourself a copy. If you're much into these, politics discussions. And now, of course, still on the coffee summit, which we've sent into our morning call, African leaders seek to reap. That is from coffee. Yeah. African leaders seek to reap from coffee. You can see here top. Now, MPs say government advertising orders should be revisited. And now the presidential directive that is to ring-fence government advertising to state-owned media houses should actually be scrapped. An alternative funding mechanism sought MPs to ICT committee. You know, that aspect of government advertisements should only be taken to government-owned media houses.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
so
yes,
the members
actually.
of parliament say it should be revisited.
Yes, actually, that got people talking, mostly people on media.
Because government is the biggest.
Yes.
Is the biggest advertiser. Let me say that.
Advertiser.
Okay, it may not be the biggest, but when it comes to coughing huge sums of money,
yes,
it's the government.
Anyway, I think, the fact that I say that it has to be revised, maybe it has to be revised because it's sort of unfair. Yeah. But anyway, in the new vision, African leaders agree on value addition and they say no export of raw coffee. No more export of raw coffee. Yeah. And of course, for those that are into politics, Vesija is not truthfully, says Nandala. If you've been following the story of FTC, definitely would want to scoop more juices in this story. And of course, regarding nuclear, Russia, South Korea to build 2 power stations in Uganda.
2 power stations.
Yeah, 2 power stations in Uganda. And of course, very much more. There are magazines and of course an interesting page on page 12. Very interesting. 49% of women give money to men. You could actually find out if it's true. You could be among the 49% or among the percentage that doesn't give them. So definitely, this is also an interesting story regarding lifestyle and of course how we interact in our day-to-day lives. And of course, 7 West Nile schools receive 800 Vision Group textbooks. And of course, still in for those that are into politics, a big story, like I told you, for FDC, the supporters of FDC. And of course, Deputy Governor tips on crisis management. And of course, corporates and susceptible to crisis, which is a critical reason for them to be prepared for anything that could disrupt their operations. I've actually been yesterday, I think, was it yesterday or another day, when I was telling you if I was to do further more studies, I would do actually in crisis management. Yeah. You know, these are kinds of because mostly we are never prepared for the risks or maybe the crises that come in within the course of the year. So definitely, as a company or as an organization, you have to be prepared, actually.
Absolutely.
You have to have a system that is ready. In case a crisis hits, what is the other alternative? What is the other thing that you have set aside in case you run short of something? You know, instead, if you run short of money, if maybe you're soon running bankrupt, what is the one thing of someone, if someone dies, you know, a top person dies, what is there for you as an alternative, you know, to make sure that the gap that is missing is filled in? So that is the importance of crisis management. Yeah. All
right. Now, finally, as we sum this up, I will take a look at Zoom defending its AI training, that is artificial intelligence. And somebody say that this is the future. Now, of course, it's a trial version because Zoom launched a new AI-powered features in June. That is one of which lets clients to summarize meetings without having to record an entire session. Now, the features were offered as a free trial. And but of course, Zoom has come out to defend this because it's one of the businesses that actually got to be so much known during the COVID-19. And they generated quite lots of money as a result of that. And now something very interesting here. The government search needed for roll out of digital number plates. Yeah, of course, we had this discussion yesterday with the stakeholders. And So, of course, there are different opinions that most of them will give about a certain matter.
Yes, of course, the amount is 714,300. You could imagine for new vehicles and, of course, motorcycles. So, in case you're planning to purchase, so definitely you have to get ready with this amount. It's about 800,000. You know, if you include transportation and eating along the way, it amounts to, you know, new things are never cheap. You know, if you want to purchase something that is authentic and it is new, you have to invest in some money. If you want something very, very clean, you have to invest in
but
money.
Actually, some member of parliament were saying that actually these are supposed to be free services for the government to give out to the people out there. And well, I won't go far into that, but you know, you mentioned some statements in relation to that. But anyway, let's wait and see how it will be received and how the exercise will actually be implemented. Now, of course, queries as Africa domestic coffee consumption surges, so there is an increase into that coffee consumption, and both accident victims named in here. Of course, very sad to that. And we see something here to Russia, Korea to build a 15,000 megawatt nuclear power stations. Yes, that is President Museveni say that Russians and Koreans will build 2 nuclear power stations that will generate about 15,000 megawatts of power. Yeah, that would be quite a good surplus, and it will increase on the rate. But you see, the challenge is that Uganda, we don't really yet have that even distribution of electricity to the different regions. Now that's still, it's quite a challenge that we have the electricity. We are even exporting to some countries. Recently we started South Sudan, you know, we export to Rwanda, but it's quite very unfortunate that it's unevenly distributed within the domestic market. So, well, when I see
and additional, it's a bit costly, really.
It's a little bit costly. And if I look at this additional megawatts, I'm trying to understand to what extent are we, because you see, if we have even distribution of electricity, I believe we shall have also improvement of business.
Yes, definitely.
Because majority of the businesses of the people that they can actually do, most especially into the service sector, even the production, needs quite a sum of electricity. And well, it could also be one of the hindering factors to the growth and development of this economy. Supply to energy. Solar is fine, but you see, even the solar, to be efficient for you to gain from it, it's quite, you have to invest in a lot.
Yes, you have to invest in a lot.
You get those very highly expensive solar panels and you put them out there. Well, we come to the end of our press updates in here, but now let's take a look at the traffic situation. And all the images that you're looking at there are coming in straight all the way from Clock Tower. And now, of course, we're going to observe the traffic atmosphere. So now we're speaking to people that are staying along Entebbe Road, Gala Road, you know, and you are planning your day out to come to work in town. You can really see actually coming. It's very interesting. Some of the factors that can actually cause congestion are very funny. Just something very, very, very small. Very unbelievable. Just somebody, because you're trying to make a U-turn, and trying to make a U-turn, there is some other person who's also making a turn. Before you know it, you get stuck in there. And when you're coming, you will see a huge fleet of vehicles, and you're trying to imagine, oh my goodness, where's all this jam coming from? But surprisingly, when you bypass that area of congestion, that area which has brought about the entire congestion, ahead, the vehicles actually moving very okay. And you really wonder how this really works out. But of course, switching our eyes to Gaba Road, it looks a little bit much more free, and you know, so if you're coming in from those areas. But of course, the traffic officers are also active to make sure that despite the smoothness, there has to be some sort of control of the vehicles to avoid any potential crash in this very early morning. So yeah, so for the people that are coming in from Kabalagala, coming to town, you're coming in from Kansanga, coming this side of city center, you might be not delayed a little bit. It seems friendly in that. Now, same applies to the people that are leaving city center and you're heading towards that to execute business and work-related matters. Yeah, you have quite a safe haven for you there. Let you go. It looks free, actually. It looks very, very free in there. yeah, this place is known for having quite lots of pedestrians, very lots of them, and it gets a bit much more worse when it comes to evening hours when we're heading back to work. Oh my goodness, it's very congested in there. Though the construction of this flyover has also kind of taken quite a while. Probably once it's all done, this place will get much more organized, because at some point it doesn't seem to have a streamlined sort of a way of our vehicles should actually move and head to other destinations. Yeah, so that is the Kansanga route as we are observing. Traffic officers taking a look and making sure that they can execute what they're executing. Now, finally, I think as we switch our eyes, and now this is for the people that are heading towards, there's different places. You're coming in from those surfy areas. You're heading towards, It's exactly 26 minutes past 7, and that is it for our traffic updates this morning. And still, I would love to remind you that the markets on the Zabo platform, anytime from now, are going to be operating. Starting 92 hash is simply the code, which will avail you with options to be in position to be a part of this market. And you'll be able to invest in bonds and securities with just 15,000 shillings. But of course, you can still choose to invest more. But the minimum requirement is 15,000 in shillings. Now, the markets are going to be operating at exactly 8:15 a.m. and then running all the way to 3:15 p.m. East African time. And this is effective Monday up to Friday, apart from the weekends, the public holidays, when those markets cannot be accessed. But despite that, you have the rest of the days to make money, and something which I believe is quite important and essential when it comes to your financial growth and development as an individual. So Zabo made this a reality for you. Let's start 92 hash, regardless of whether you have a button phone or a smartphone, you will be able to actually trade bonds and securities for as little as mentioned, 15,000 Uganda shillings. That's why Zabo says my money, my future, and all that South Africa says do something. It is 2023. Well, Smart Means Business takes a break for now, and when we return, we shall be taking a look at what's happening within East Africa and the international community, but definitely still discussing matters of business. Stick around.